Hey everybody, welcome back to Markets for Millennials. And I wanted to do this video specifically on Bitcoin and GBTC. I've been asked a lot of questions about whether or not my stance has changed, about my analysis and kind of what's going on based on Bitcoin's price action. And I would just start out by referencing you to two videos that are on my channel that I did. One that was from May 21st, my original Bitcoin analysis. And though I posted this video in May of this year, it actually is from analysis that was done towards the back end of 2020. And I just finally put it into video form to share it. But in that video, I talk about kind of what my analysis looked like and how I came to not just an estimate or a guesstimate perhaps on when the peaks would be and when the low would be for this particular cycle, but also the price target, kind of the area of price target. And so that is essential to my view on not just Bitcoin but on GBTC. And then the other video that I would reference here is that I would ask you to go watch is GBTC does its price track Bitcoin, which is from the end of March. And the reason I would reference this video is because in this video I talked about analysis on the GBTC fund tracking Bitcoin. And I would reference both of those because everything that I do here on Bitcoin is a direct impact on GBTC, because the long story short is that GBTC will do whatever Bitcoin is doing. And a lot of people get really bent out of shape about the premium versus the discount on the net asset value. But I try to get past that noise, and I just say wherever Bitcoin is, that's all that matters. And I would say that too because just for perspective, once again, it really just depends on where you buy GBTC, right? So, if you, or just Bitcoin. Like for example, if you bought Bitcoin down here in kind of this area, then if Bitcoin ends up here, whether that is at 100,000 or if it ends at 80,000 or if it ends at 110,000, let's not get greedy. Let's not get too mad over here about our gain. Okay. Whereas like now, on Bitcoin, if you bought somewhere up here, you're looking at price to the downside and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm in deep water, what am I going to do, right? If you bought here and price only goes to 80,000, look, again, we can get greedy, if you really want to, but you're still looking at, a pretty substantial gain. From our peak, if we only go to about 80,000, that's 24%. If we go to about 90,000, it's 40%. If we go to 100,000, it's over 50%. So again, you got to have perspective to understand that, whatever you do on Bitcoin, even if you're planning on getting out near term, like at the peak of the cycle, that's still what we're looking at in the end. So no reason to get greedy. And by extension, GBTC is going to do the same thing. So again, and I know my chart is still looks a little funky from some of the last analysis that I did, but again, for perspective, if you bought GBTC here and GBTC ends here, or if we go towards some of my one of my original price targets, which is up here, then gosh, what is there really ultimately to be unhappy about? That's just my opinion, okay? But I wanted to start out with that first because when I talk about how my views have or have not changed, you need to understand that GBTC's fate specifically is directly tied to the underlying, to Bitcoin's fate. And so I wanted to just take some time to talk through kind of what's going on in my mind as far as Bitcoin goes. So I'm on a 3-day chart right now because I want to just take the big picture view. What would be really interesting too, I want to take a quick look. I'm going to find my lumber chart for a second because what a lot of us in the Bitcoin space, what a lot of people have been researching in and investing in Bitcoin have been looking for is something that would look more like this. You know, this would be our signal that the cycle peak is over, because this is like Wall Street cheat sheet 101, right? You have all your different phases here. You know, most of us, I mean, a lot of people right now, I should say, a lot of the bearish people, they think that we're on this side, that we've, you know, that we're coming down into bear market territory because we've had such a large pullback, right? But a lot of the rest of us think that we're somewhere in here, right? Now, obviously, you know, how many candles, the length of time, the depth of the correction, right? Those things change over time. But I mean, like, let's take a look on just on my lumber chart here. Like, this correction here is, you know, 45%. Okay. How about this correction that's down here? Let's take a look. 45%. You know, this correction is 24%. So even here with lumber, after these huge corrections, it's still had a lot to go. So this is the kind of chart that a lot of us are looking for Bitcoin to have. So when we come back to Bitcoin, I mean, like, do you see that in this halving? I don't see it, right? So, and the problem is that, like, with TradingView, it's scaling a certain way. You know, if you go back into previous cycles and you zoom in, right, it looks like, whoa, you know, this is crazy price action, blow off top. Oh, wait, just kidding. Oh, wait, just kidding. You know, now here's the blow off top, right? So it's you have to keep that in mind. You have to have the right perspective. You got to zoom out, and you got to just kind of assess what's going on. So we didn't see that price action on Bitcoin. What we would have expected to see, you know, is we would have expected to see something more like this, and then a little bounce, and then come down like that. We didn't get that. We got the rounding top, right? So for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is we didn't get a blow off top. I don't think the cycle is over. The length of time and the number of blocks have not elapsed to signal to me that it's the end of the cycle. The on-chain metrics, you know, and I'm not going to go look for them and show them all on my screen here, but the on-chain metrics suggest that you have a that we haven't even gotten to the peak of the bull phase yet. So if that's the case, then what are we looking at here, right? So we got this, you know, and people are calling it Wyckoff, whatever the case may be. We got this rounding top, right? So what really helps in this case is if you've read the book Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, then what you probably have seen and what I'm seeing here is this right here is a market. They were creating a market to sell into, right? So this is where we had all this hype, and you know, you had Elon pumping Bitcoin and all that. And what this price action shows you here is that they were trying to create a buying market that they could sell into. That's why these rounding tops take place, because they know they can't just sell all their Bitcoin right away, because if they did, they know they can't take all their profits right away, because if they did, they would, you know, the whales especially would destroy the price of Bitcoin. So you create euphoria, or I wouldn't say it's euphoria, but you create hype, you create buying so that you can sell, right? And I think, and I've said this, you know, in my previous video, I think it was a weekly wrap video, but you see that same kind of thing. It looks like it's happening here. We've got a sell down, sell down, sell down, and we could bounce around here a little bit more. And the reason why that's happening is because people are creating a market, a selling market, so that they can buy. So it's the same concept as what's going on up here, except the intention is now they're buying and accumulating so that they can launch price up, right? So whether you want to call it a Wyckoff or something else, you know, that's ultimately what it is. Okay. So a couple things. We've had this kind of support line, which is approximately, give or take, at about 30,000. A lot of people are looking at that line for a different reason, or for various reasons, and I'll show you kind of where I'm thinking here. what I'm thinking is going to happen. I don't think we're, just in the last few days actually, because of price action. Let me go to a daily. I actually thought on this candle, which was July 15th, I thought we were actually going to come down and close closer to the 30,000, 30,500 range. Because what I'm looking for is a long close, like kind of a big long close to get us kind of below these closes here. Not quite at the 30,000 level, but around this level. A real deep red bar, and then kind of a small like doji red bar before resuming back up. And to me, that'll be the signal that the actual daily closing low is in. I could be completely wrong. Maybe our low, maybe our daily closing low is in here somewhere. Not really sure. What is clear is that every time price has tried to come down and break this level, it's been bought up. We've got a whole bunch of wicks, like really long wicks. We have a long wick here and here and here and here and here, right? So we've been creating these, this is a buying zone. And that's part of the reason why I think that we're not going to see prices go lower. It's entirely possible. I don't think we're going to break that level. Okay. Now there's another reason why I feel pretty optimistic about this. And I just want to take a moment and shout out Year of the Bull. He posted this back June 8th. And I think even the analysis goes back even further. But I just want to give him the shout out. This is work that he's been putting out for a considerable amount of time, referring to Fibonacci levels, right? So what I did was I did the same thing. I went and, inspired by this, I looked at that work. And so just looking at the Fibonacci levels here, right, he's referring to what's called the golden ratio, the 1618 Fibonacci extension, right? So once price gets above that and closes above it, you pretty much don't break it ever again, at least in Bitcoin, right? So that's this kind of blue line right here, and you can see that my green support line was right above that. So even though we've wicked down, and even going back, to early January, after we broke above it, though we wicked down, we never closed below it, right? And so that was something, and so I wanted to go take a look back at the previous cycle, right? So you go from, sorry, I've got a whole bunch of stuff here. You go from the peak to the low, right? And I'm the peak and the low that I'm using is price, the absolute highest price, not the closing price, right? And so if I zoom back out here, you can see here we've got a lot of fib levels here. Sorry, here's the 1618 level. So it's this kind of blue line here. And in this case, we popped above it and then came and consolidated around it. But then once we decisively cleared, you see that it wicked close to it here and here, right? This is kind of a lot of people were calling it the mid-cycle shakeout from the 2017 bull peak, right? And you never see price go below that again after that, right? So that works, okay? But then I was curious because a lot of people, this is the first halving, and this specific chart doesn't have all of the old price action from Bitcoin's inception. So what I was curious about was I wanted to know if that was also the case after this, blow off top. So in the 2012 to 2013 bull run, you had two peaks, right? So this was the first blow off top, which is what we were kind of looking for in this. And then we have the second blow off top that happened here, right? So I was curious about, okay, was it also the case there, right? So it's a much smaller sample size here, but you also do see that here, right? Even in the cycle, right? From peak to low. I mean, I guess I could even go to this low, but I'm going to use this low here. But here, where's the 1618 level, right? The 1618 level. Look at you still, once you popped above it, again, small sample size because it was a very quick price action, but it tried to come down and it only wicked to it but didn't close below it, right? And then if you follow here, right, it wicked below here in the bear phase, and then it only had 1 day. Actually, no, sorry. So during the bull phase, excuse me, it's getting a little mixed up here. During the bull phase, right, what I was gonna say was that it doesn't even go below the 1618 level ever again. But I feel like the caveat here is that this was still one single bull market. Okay, so but even during, after this first blow off top, that ratio still held, at least during the bull phase. So that's the caveat there, right? So, but now I want to take a look at, because I do have another Bitcoin chart that covers previous price action. There's some extra lines here because this was the chart that I used for my original Bitcoin analysis video. But I even want to show you here because somewhere around the 8th of June 2011, we could call that a pre-halving peak, right? Because it kind of operated the same way. You see this parabolic rise, this blow off top, and then a massive drawdown and consolidation, right? So it worked the same way, but just on smaller time scale, right? So I did the same thing, and this was, to Year of the Bulls, thing as well, to his tweet, right? So I just wanted to test it, and sure enough, here is this blue line is our 168 level. If you look here, we wicked down a couple of times, touched it, but never closed below it. You can even see here, as we came up to the first peak, it was resistance. For a short while, it was resistance, right? So the price action even goes back to that spot, okay? So for that reason, right, I don't believe, if I can get back to, where are my fibs? Okay. For that reason, I don't think we're going to, we may touch it, we may wick below it like we've already done a few times, but I don't think we're going to close below it. And if we do, then that means that, all bets are off, all right? So that's one thing. Now I'm going to turn this off for a second because now I want to show you, again, going back to my other chart, something that I was looking at as well. And Year of the Bull mentions this too. He talks about the 17944 fib level that they either hit or exceed in past cycles. Those are extensions. So what I'm going to do is go back here. So again, using that level, if I pull all the way back, this peak, actually, believe it or not, even including this first one, goes all the way up between the 2904 and the 46092. And again, those are Fibonacci extension levels. You can look up how to calculate those. I didn't want to do all of the 8 million different numbers here in the middle, but these are all extensions. And so you have here 2904, 4692. It took place in between those two levels, or the blow off top took place between those two levels, and almost even touched the 4692 up there. So that was something that I thought was very interesting. And then I went back and I analyzed the same thing on my normal Bitcoin chart. So I'm going to really quickly turn that on, and I'm going to go back. Right. So in the first cycle, let me turn off the second one. In the first cycle, what did it end up looking like? Our peak did pop above the high, I believe, popped right above the 1794 level. So what was crazy is it was not quite at the same level. It was lower, right? And then and so what I think that means is if we want to just be safe, maybe we can assume that the Fibonacci level that it's going to be between, maybe is, if we're talking about diminishing returns, then perhaps we could say it would be between the 1109 and the 1794 level, because that would make sense considering kind of where things ended off in this, right? So it wasn't quite up, you know, it was above the 2904 in this following the first peak, right? But the oh, I don't know what just happened on my chart here, but the price here in this one was not quite up at that level, right? So we only made it above. I can scroll. Sorry, I'm doing this in real time. We only made it above the 17.94 level. So if we're going to say that it's going to be between the 11.09 level and the 17.94 level for the peak, right? Then what does that mean for the current cycle, right? And so again, it's just a guesstimate, but I think that, you know, it could be really interesting, right? So going off of these levels, see, like you can see it's getting really funky here. If we guesstimate between the 1109 and the 1794 level, then what's crazy is you can see that there's this crossing, these two crossing lines right here. This is where my my peak estimate was. And so what I would say is that when this phase is over, when the bull phase is over, I think what we're looking at is a price target that's basically somewhere in here in this range, right? So let me, if I can really quickly, I don't know if I'll be able to find this very quickly. We'll see what I can do here. But basically, oh, here we go. I have two potential topping points. One of them is October 16th, and the other one is February 24th of 2022. And I come to that conclusion. You can see I do it in my Bitcoin analysis video, my original Bitcoin analysis video. But this was my guesstimate range. So what that means, once again, is if we're going to use if we're going to try to ballpark somewhere between the 1109 and the 1794, then that means that our peak in terms of price is going to happen somewhere between October and February, and it's going to be somewhere between, let's see, somewhere between 185,000 and about 300,000. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. That's where I feel like our bull phase is going to end. Okay, so now as far as when is this going to take place, right? I just talked about how you can go visit this video, my Bitcoin original analysis, to figure out how I came to those conclusions. But if we just take a step back and we look back here at the first cycle, right? So I'm going to show you this chart here. Let me turn the fibs off here. What I did was I basically made this little color chart because I wanted to kind of see what price action was doing during this whole particular period of time. And so you have the overall cycle, which is here in blue, to the peak. And I'm in this section, I'm tracing to the actual daily closing top, which happened on December 4th of 2013. Right? Because of the extent of the drawdown that we're in right now, I'm using cycle 1 after the first halving as kind of my baseline for guesstimating consolidation. And when we get to new all-time highs, and when we eventually peak out, or at least possibly when we could peak out, and the type of price action we might be looking at. So in cycle 1, it was approximately 132 days from the halving to the first daily close peak. And then we had an 87-day drawdown until our lowest daily close mid-cycle. So about 87 days. And I've got this pink vertical right here, which is showing you exactly halfway in terms of date between the halving and the peak. Right, so you've got that right here. So the dip took place slightly after, approximately 35-ish days after kind of the halfway point. Then you had another in this green right here. You had basically a 150-day period of time from the low, the daily low, to the cycle peak, 150 days. And then what was interesting too that I want to really emphasize here is the length of time of this consolidation before it went up to new all-time highs. So if you start from the daily close of this last green candle in the first peak, it's approximately 209 days before there is a higher closing high. Right? You kind of touch up here on this little wick, but the high doesn't close. It doesn't close at a higher high until 209 days later. Okay, and so this takes time. These consolidations can take a lot of time, so you have to really be patient here as you look forward to what is to come. Okay, so to kind of put into perspective, I kind of have highlighted here the consolidation that we're on right now, as of today, is only 93 days, and if we wanted to potentially get to that length of time, so about 209 days, right? So it could be, if it followed exactly from this all-time high, right? If we're going to consider this our sort of near peak, then we could be looking at November before we make a new all-time high. It could happen that way, and still the bull cycle would be intact, right? As long as we don't lose the golden Fibonacci, the 1618, then it's entirely possible it could take that long to consolidate down, right? I'm looking more towards it being, I was wrong. I was wrong previous times where I thought that, I thought it was going to be. Let's see, where are we? I thought it was going to be right here that we met, that we were getting back to all-time highs and going into price discovery. It's definitely wrong about that. It looks like I'm going to be wrong about previous predictions that I've made about the end of July, where Bitcoin's price would be. I can own that. Price hasn't been doing what I suspected it was going to do, because I was looking more at Bitcoin to model the 2017 cycle, or to at least be a better average of the two cycles. And in many ways it is. Okay, but in many ways it's been a lot different, and that's just kind of the way things are. You can't guarantee that price is going to do exactly what it did last time. And so that's really, really important. Okay, so once again, I'm looking for price ultimately to fall somewhere in this range by the time we get to the peak. Actually, that's a little high. I don't know why those are all up there. I'm looking somewhere in this vicinity for price to be here. And that will be, even if we're at the low end of that at about 160 or 180,000, that's just gravy for me. Okay, so that's kind of where I think Bitcoin is at right now. Again, just to kind of summarize, I do not believe the bull market is over. I'm bullish in the long term, and plus, even if the worst should happen, and this was the peak, and we're going into bear market for a long period of time, the right thing to do, not financial advice, is to just hodl your Bitcoin, because nobody who's held Bitcoin for 4 years ever lost money, right? So you have to have kind of a longer term perspective and a long time horizon. That's just the right way to invest. Bitcoin is an investment. It's not something that you use to get rich quick. So now to go and quickly talk about GBTC. If I just kind of squeeze this in here, my original GBTC analysis was based off of the price history that we had. GBTC did not exist during the bull market during the 2012-2013 bull market and after the first halving. The only cycle that it has existed through is the second halving, as a full cycle. And so obviously it followed that price action basically in 3 steps, kind of in 3 moves. After long consolidation, it kind of had a 1, and then 2, and then the final move. And so that's kind of where I thought Bitcoin's price action or GBTC's price action would be. But obviously, because of what the underlying is doing, it looks like, geez, look at the chart. Almost looks exactly the same. Some of the peaks are different, right? It peaked at the second one here, whereas Bitcoin peaked. Bitcoin's high was at the third little level here. But it is basically following exactly Bitcoin's price. So what I'm looking for on GBTC going forward, this is just me, not financial advice for you. I believe in the most in GBTC, and I am looking basically for it to hold this level, which is kind of the this little swing high right here. It was resistance, and I'm looking for it to provide support going forward. That level is approximately $24. And I'm looking for it to hold there. And then as Bitcoin goes to make its peak, I'm looking for it to just rocket. I do believe that once Bitcoin begins its upward movement, the one thing I would say is the same, which was true and was the case back here during the 2017 bull market, right here, and then in the blow off top, GBTC massively outperformed Bitcoin. In fact, I had tweets and I have a video somewhere on my channel. I can't remember exactly which video it is, where I talked about the few places like GBTC ultimately will perform on a percentage basis from halving to peak the same as Bitcoin does. But a lot of people, it only outperforms Bitcoin in a couple of places, but when it does, it is massive to the upside, right? And you just have to be prepared for the fact that when Bitcoin is consolidating or declining, GBT is also going to underperform. And I still think that that's going to be true here, right? So GBTC all throughout this consolidation has been underperforming, but I think once we get this move to the upside, it's going to vastly outperform Bitcoin. Whoops, excuse me here. So as far as price target, I would say that the only thing that's changed about my GBTC price target is that I'm looking more on the low end of the range that I was thinking. My original target that I was going for was going to be somewhere in the low 300s, upper 200s. I actually think that GBTC will probably top out around 200, maybe give or take a little bit. But when the cycle is over, that's where I'm going to be looking for. Obviously, it depends on what the underlying of Bitcoin is doing. And just again, a lot of people get really, really bent out of shape with GBTC because of the NAV premium or discount. Right now, it is at discount. It's just market psychology. Just like, if I go back to my lumber chart here, where you should buy in a bull market is, right here or right here, but too many people buy it here. Oops, I'm just going to clear these really quick. Too many people are buying here or here or here or here or here even, right? People are always waiting, right? And the biggest problem is, with Bitcoin and with GBTC, let me go back to my GBTC chart. People are so afraid that they're not seeing Bitcoin and GBTC for what it is. They're not buying here. A lot of people are probably going to wait until GBTC is trading up here to buy. And to me, I'm just like, well, gosh, that's 70 to 100% higher than where it is now, right? People are just a little too scared, a little too worried. And I do stand by what I said previously, that if you look at these other funds, Osprey Bitcoin Trust, EBIT, all of these, none of them are proven, and all of their price action is essentially the same. It's just that people get that weird thought in their head that, oh, it's at premium, or oh, it's at discount. And because GBTC has been at discount for so long, I think the discount started somewhere over here. People have been really down on GBTC ever since then. But ultimately, if GBTC rolls over into an ETF, then the premium or discount won't matter. It'll basically be zero. It'll go back to where its net asset value is, or it should. And I think personally, if GBTC doesn't go to an ETF, if we don't have any ETFs before the end of this bull phase, then I think that it's going to go back to premium, before the end. I think it'll be at 5 to 10% premium before the end. So we'll see. I could be totally wrong, but that's kind of where I'm at. So my stance has not changed. I'm a hodler, and I think that's just the best thing. And I guess the last thing I would say as it relates to GBTC, for those of you holding and wishing and praying and hopeful and all that, even if you bought up here, if you bought up here, then this downside move, it's really up to your conviction. If you bought up here, you have to ask yourself why you bought. Why did you buy up here? Because if price is down here and you're feeling like selling, then you need to ask yourself why you bought GBTC in the first place. If you were just looking for a get rich quick option, you bought for the wrong reason, and that's just me being frank. And so, if that's the reason why, then maybe being in GBTC is not for you. You shouldn't be trying to trade GBTC anyway. This is just kind of an equity option for you who don't want to go buy actual crypto, right? This is a way for you to get access to the space without having to buy the actual crypto. So if that's your option, if you are bullish on crypto long term, then this shouldn't freak you out, because ultimately where it's going to go, right? That's just kind of the way I would say to think about it. That's the way I would say to think about it, right? This price action shouldn't kick you out here, right? And if you believe in Bitcoin long term, then you should believe in GBTC long term. And there's no sense in selling down here, because you're at support. First of all, from a technical analysis perspective, you're at support. You're at really good support. And you've already seen a massive drawdown. Why would you sell here if you didn't sell here or here or here or on this bounce here? Honestly, there's no reason for you to sell now that you're down here, unless you don't believe in crypto. But if you are a believer, then you should just be a hodler, not financial advice. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully all these things were helpful. Hopefully all these are food for thought for you. If you enjoyed this video, if you thought the content was good, like, subscribe, and share with somebody. And I'll see you guys next time.